Hello. There will not be a regular episode of Doctor Who Literature this week. We are going to talk instead about the late William Russell, who passed away a few days ago at age 99. The 1970s are a bit of a blur to me, and I don't recall exactly when I first met Superman, but I do have some proof in my language experience notebook from kindergarten. Once a week, we would sit down with a school staff member who had a manual typewriter on a cart. We, the student, would dictate our story of the week. We would then paste the story into our notebook and draw a picture to illustrate. I still have my notebook. November 27th, 1978. Jason M. Entry number 3. Cartoons. On Saturday, I saw Aquaman. Superman was on too. Superman and Wonder Woman flew to swamps, and they saw giant plants that walked. This would have been the 1978-79 season of Super Friends, called the Challenge of the Super Friends. Looking at the Wikipedia summaries of the episodes that aired on November 25th, 1978, that would have been the Saturday in question, I cannot find a synopsis that matches what I talked about in my language experience notebook. But that is what I said I saw, and I don't doubt that I saw it. Which goes to show I knew who Superman was in November 1978. Superman the movie came out the following month, December 1978, and my parents took me to see it. I don't recall if my entire exposure to Superman was Super Friends, or if perhaps they were Superman comics that I was reading or being read to at that time. What I can tell you about Superman the movie is that the movie terrified me. Many scenes in the movie were scary to a 5-year-old, but this scene in particular.
This council has no hesitation in proclaiming you all
Guilty. 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 Guilty.
It wasn't until about 15 years later, with the advent of the Internet Movie Database, that I learned that one of the enormous heads on the screen behind Jor-El was William Russell. And that would have been in a movie theater on Long Island in December 1978, the first time, but not the last, that I would come across William Russell. He would never scare me quite so much again. The next time I came across him was in the novelization of Doctor Who and An Unearthly Child. Episode 65 of this podcast, that would have been in early 1985, one of my second batch of novelizations. I loved Ian Chesterton on the printed page from the first time that I saw him. You don't get a good sense from the novelization of what William Russell looked or sounded like, but I pictured him as a deep-voiced action hero of the kind that 1985 had plenty of. When I first saw the Dalek invasion of Earth at my first Doctor Who convention at the Roosevelt Hotel on Madison Avenue and East 45th Street in Manhattan on July 27, 1985, I was shocked that William Russell's voice was actually high-pitched, mentally exploding my image from the books of what Ian was. That was probably the only time that I ever had anything that could be resembling disappointment from William Russell's performance and from Ian Chesterton, the character. I have spoken many times on this podcast about my love of William Hartnell as the Doctor. I have not spoken quite as often about Ian and William Russell because this is the Doctor Who Literature Podcast and not the Companions of Doctor Who Literature Podcast. Make no mistake, this has been said in many ways by many people at many times, but Ian and Barbara were the heart of the show those first 2 seasons. Ian was the square-jawed action hero, even if his voice was not as deep as the 1980s action heroes that I would grow up with before I discovered Doctor Who. Going story by story through Ian's tenure, he is one of the moral voices challenging the Doctor in the first 2 episodes of An Unearthly Child, and then, in the Daleks, it is Ian who explains why it is so important to fight the Daleks, i.e. the space Nazis, so soon after the conclusion of World War II. In The Edge of Destruction, Ian and Barbara stand up against the Doctor, who wrongly and paranoidly accuses them of committing crimes. And Marco Polo, it is Ian, who unmasks Tigana as the bad guy and makes a valiant attempt to get the TARDIS key back from Marco Polo. When William Hartnell took his 2 weeks vacation in Season 1, Ian became the de facto lead of the show in the middle episodes of Keys of Marinus, episodes 3 and 4, while he is wrongly framed for murder in episode 5. That allows the Doctor to play true hero of the show for the first time, rising to the moment as Ian's defense counsel. In the Aztecs, Ian is the chosen warrior of the Aztec people, thanks to the goddess Yetaxa, giving Ian a chance to do several stunt scenes and to win a death-defying fight at the top of the pyramid, where his opponent falls 350 feet down to the bottom, dead at the resolution in episode 4. Ian has several other opportunities to show his daring do throughout the remainder of his time on the show. This brief clip from the Space Museum shows that Ian never took any nonsense from anybody.
You'll be a fool if you kill me. You will achieve nothing.
Possibly, but it might be enjoyable.
What do you want?
Take me to the Doctor. The old man you captured.
And if I refuse?
I don't think you'll be that stupid.
You'll kill me anyway.
But Ian wasn't just an action hero. He was also very, very funny. When you're going up against William Hartnell, who is terrific at comedy and less great at some of the more technical babble science fiction elements of the show, William Russell always rose to the occasion. I've been very critical of the Web Planet. There's very little about that story which I find natural or compelling, but there is an isolated moment between the Doctor and Ian in Part 1 which makes me laugh every single time.
Look. Oh, it must be water. Any form of life would need that, eh?
Wait, stop.
What's the matter?
You're a little premature. Let's have your tie.
Well, I haven't got one.
I know you're not wearing one, dear boy, but the one round your middle.
Let my pants stay up.
Yes, that's your affair, not mine.
And when the Doctor is accidentally engaged to Kamika in the Aztecs, it's not just the fact of the engagement that's funny, it's the way that William Russell plays off the revelation. His double takes are really what sell the scene. Let's listen to the audio and see if that point comes across.
Where did you get hold of this?
My fiancée.
I see. You're what?
Yes, I made some cocoa and got engaged. Oh, don't giggle, my boy. It's neither here nor there. We must find that tunnel tonight.
Yes, all right.
Now, I'll wait for you in the garden, and when Ixta's asleep, you come out.
Yes, I will, all right. Oh, by the way, Doctor, congratulations.
And of course, when Doctor Who The Hartnell Years were broadcast on Twitch a few years ago, well, several years ago now, what was the expression that all the kids latched onto that made its way onto countless t-shirts? London, 1965. And that was the voice of William Russell. I only got to meet William Russell once. This was at Gallifrey 1. In my memory, this immutably happened in February 2020, right before the pandemic. I am told, of course, as with so many other things, that my memory is faulty, and this would have been 2019 instead. I did not get a chance to speak to William Russell up close and tell him how much his character has meant to me over the years. He was kept at a remove from us on the autograph line. It was a very long line and a very short amount of time. He was sharing a table with Carol Ann Ford. We were told to give him the paper, take our autograph, say nothing, and leave. I had to get some talk back from the line attendant when I whispered thank you to him and Carol Ann Ford. He looked appreciative, but I never had a chance to actually speak to him face to face, and there were no more opportunities after Gallifrey 2020 or 2019, as the case may be. But I can tell you this, I'm a stoic kind of guy. Doctor Who rarely makes me cry, not even the new series, which places so much more emphasis on emotion than the original series did. I did get teary-eyed on a couple of occasions watching the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane say farewell to one another in The Hand of Fear, usually when real-life events were overlaid on top of that, and I was reacting to real life as much as to the Doctor and Sarah Jane. But I can tell you that when Power of the Doctor aired for the first time in October 2022, it was a poorly kept secret that old companions were going to be coming back at the end of the episode, but I didn't know exactly who. I did try to avoid all spoilers. In the final sequence, when the support group of the Doctor's companions is meeting, I can tell you most assuredly that I lost it when the following happened.
Dan, I've only been back a month, and I gotta say I'm glad I'm not on the verge of being exterminated anymore. But I do miss her.
Sorry. Did you say... her?
That episode aired almost on the 38th anniversary of my watching Doctor Who for the first time. I learned about Ian very shortly after I first watched the show, and I saw William Russell for the first time in that hotel ballroom on Madison Avenue and East 45th Street, only about 8 months into my fandom. Ian and I have been on this journey together at this point for nearly 40 years, when I saw William Russell back on the show in his late 90s, but looking much younger, and delivering that line, that brief line, so well. I'll admit it, I lost it. I cried right there, in front of my computer, watching that episode. William Russell lived to be nearly 100 years old, an incredible legacy. We have not even gotten into his part in The Great Escape, one of my favorite movies, or the many other things which he's done, which I have not seen. The Doctor Who universe is going to be an indelibly smaller place without Ian Chesterton and without William Russell in it. May his memory be a blessing.
Why do you take such risks?
Because I overheard something that Latoxel said to Tonilla.
Tonilla? I didn't know they were allies.
They're planning something against you. I'm sure of it.
I'll watch them both. Latoxel's dangerous. He seems able to bring people around to his way of thinking.
Oh, you've got it all wrong, Barbara. All the people here share Latoxel's views.
What about Ortlock? Oh, I'm sick and tired of all this arguing and quarreling. First the Doctor and now you. Why can't you see what I'm trying to do?
I can.
Well, you're not helping. Latoxel's evil, and he'll make everyone else the same.
They are the same, Barbara. That's the whole point. You keep on insisting that Latoxel's the odd man out, but he isn't.
I don't believe it.
Well, you must. If only you could stand away from this thing, you'd see it clearly. Ortlock's the extraordinary man here. He's the reasonable one, the civilized one, the one that's prepared to listen to advice. But he's one man, Barbara. One man.